evening and welcome to this special OU Nightly coverage of the 2018 midterm elections. I'm Cal Day.
And I'm Nicole Nielsen. And it all comes down to tonight. Candidates across Oklahoma have been campaigning for months while voters will elect the state's new governor along with 7 other statewide office holders.
Voters cast ballots on 5 state questions today, ranging from whether to change where we shop for eye care to whether we expand crime victims' rights. The Sooner State's 5 congressional seats are being decided, along with the 430. We have correspondents at key areas in Oklahoma and throughout the nation standing by to bring us the latest as the numbers roll in.
Alongside the OU Nightly team, we'll be joined by political analysts ready to answer your questions and offer commentary on this election.
The biggest race tonight is who is going to fill Governor Mary Fallon's shoes. Democratic candidate Drew Edmondson and Republican Kevin Stitt are running against each other in a typically red state.
Other important Oklahoma races on the ballots include Lieutenant Governor, Attorney General, and Superintendent of Public Instruction.
The polls closed a little over an hour ago, and we'll now take a look at what the latest numbers are for key races in Oklahoma.
The state's watching closely to see who will take over as the next governor for Oklahoma. The numbers currently show Drew Edmondson with 45.22% and Kevin Stitt with 52.04% reporting. For Lieutenant Governor, we are currently seeing 39.9% for Anastasia Pittman and 59.04% for Matt Pinnell. And now we'll move on to Attorney General Mike Hunter with 61% and Mark Miles with 38.9%. Next, Labor Commissioner, we're going to head on to those numbers. Fred Dorrell with 36% and Leslie Osborne with 60%. And lastly, auditor numbers. Cindy Bird with 75% and John Uter with 24.5%.
As far as insurance commissioner numbers look right now, we're getting these in fresh for insurance. Waiting on those numbers, we'll move over to the corporation commissioner's race. And obviously lots of different races going on tonight, statewide offices coming up. And we're going to toss it now to our correspondent, Storm Jones, who is live in Washington, D.C. Storm, what's the mood like in D.C., the nation's capital?
Good evening and welcome to the nation's capital for the 2018 midterm elections. There are 36 United States Senate seats up for election and all 435 U.S. representatives. All of those races will be decided tonight. At stake, the control of the United States House of Representatives. Democrats believe they can take it away from the Republicans. On the Senate side, it's a closer race. Republicans feel like they have an advantage in the Senate. Now, also governor's races across the state, we're watching them as well. Let's get to some numbers really quick out of the governor's race for Florida right now. 95% reporting. The Republican Ron DeSantis up 50% over Andrew Gillum, the Democrat, with 48.8%. In Ohio, the Democrat Governor Richard Condrey with 36% reporting, up 48.8% to Mike DeWine with 48.6%. In Georgia, with 27% reporting, Democrat Stacey Abrams down to Brian Kemp, the Republican. Abrams with 39.6%, Brian Kemp with 59.7%. That race still just 27% reporting, but not close at all. Now, as more numbers come in, we'll be updating those governor's races. And as we get more numbers in from across the country, those East Coast polls well closed now, getting good numbers in from those. Still some starting to trickle in from the central time zone. As soon as we get more, we'll come back to you from the nation's capital with those numbers from across the country. Guys, back to you.
All right, thank you very much, Storm. Did you see that background? Storm's got the best seat maybe in the whole house.
No kidding.
Well, Sammy Steele joins us now live from Kevin Stitt's watch party in Oklahoma City. Sammy, how's it going there?
Cal and Nicole, I'm here at Bricktown Event Center for the GOP's watch party, where volunteers say more than 1,700 people have RSVP'd for the event. Now, as I'm standing here, there are more and more people flooding in for this watch party, but some people you won't see here are candidates. It said we were told that candidates aren't arriving until races have been called, and that includes Governor hopeful Kevin Stitt. Now, Stitt is said to be watching the race results come in with his family and will be here once the race has officially been called. He'll talk on the podium right behind me. We're going to have the latest details, and we're going to be up next. We're talking to a Stitz supporter. You're not going to want to miss it and not want to miss the vibe of this watch party. It's exciting stuff here in Oklahoma City. Sammy Steele, back to you guys in the studio.
Perfect. Thank you, Sammy. Abby Green joins us with a look at the 5 state questions. Abby?
Yes, Nicole, as far as state questions go, we have updated numbers for those as well. We'll begin with state question 793, which would allow optometrists to open practices in retail establishments like Walmart. Those numbers currently stand at the yes side, we have 52.19, and the no side, we have 47.81. And now for state question 794, or Marcy's Law, is showing that we have around 78% for the yes side and around 22% for the no side. And next is state question 798, or the proposition for a joint ticket for governor and lieutenant governor. The polls currently stand at the yes side around 46% and the no side at 53%. And now looking at state question 800, or the proposal for the Oklahoma Vision Fund. The numbers show around the yes side around 42% and the no side around 58%. And finally, state question 801, which would expand schools' use over tax funds. This is currently at, the yes side is currently at around 47% and the no side is around 53%. And we will have updates on those state questions as more numbers come in. That's it for now. Back to you, Cal and Nicole.
Thank you very much, Abby. It's important to know that those precincts, those are less than 10% reporting, so these are early numbers.
Absolutely.
Really early. So now go ahead and take a look at the House District races. We've got early numbers on those as well. And at U.S. House District 1, Kevin Hern with a commanding lead with less than 1% reporting, 66% of the vote early on over Tim Gilpin. That's in U.S. House District 1. And District 2, incumbent Markwayne Mullin with a 36%. He's actually trailing, looks like, to Jason Nichols, who's got about a 61% lead. And that's with nearly 30% of those precincts in, and that's in U.S. House District 2. The congressman trailing early in this one. Jason Nichols has not run for public office before. U.S. House District 3, Frank Lucas with a commanding lead with 31% of the precincts in over his challenger, Frankie Robbins, with looks like Lucas has about a 72.5 lead over in that race. And then U.S. House District 4, Tom Cole, 59% to Mary Brandon's 38%, and that's just with 14% reporting. Tom Cole's district also serves the Oklahoma City area, so as those numbers become more in, we'll get more clarity. And then in U.S. House District 5, at one time, it looks like it still is, Kendra Horn has been leading this for quite some time. 55% lead for Kendra Horn over the incumbent Steve Russell with 45%. Of course, it looks like less than 1% of those precincts reporting, and that's U.S. House District 5. All 5 of those seats on the line up for grabs tonight. And so with that being said, we're going to toss it now to Tatum Wilson, who's in the News Center with a special guest. Tatum.
Yeah, Cal and Nicole, I'm joined by J.D. Rocky right now. He is an OU political science graduate student. Thank you so much for joining us today.
It's good to be here.
So state question 793, it's one of the most contentious items on the ballot, and it's pretty neck and neck right now. It's narrowly winning. It's a really small margin. So how do you think that this state question is going to look going through the rest of the night?
It's going to continue to be very neck and neck the rest of the night, just like the governor's race. Part of the problem with this race is, and the state questions is, we don't really know what likely voters look like this time around, and so it's really hard to predict what's going to happen going forward.
So why has this been such a contentious state question?
Yeah, it's very interesting that 47 other states already allow retail stores to operate obstetrician practices. The proponents here say that it'll increase competition and help more rural and low-income individuals because they can get their eye care in one place where they shop. Opponents oppose it because they think it will lower the quality of patient care. They don't like that it binds the state legislature's future opportunities when it comes to acting if problems were to arise around this bill.
So we're just getting started with tonight. Obviously, we still got a lot left. But what do you think is going to be the race to watch?
So in Oklahoma, I'm watching the 5th Congressional District between incumbent Steve Russell and Democratic challenger Kendra Horn. The Horn campaign has had a really strong mobilization operation. They've been targeting first-time voters and younger voters, and if they're able to turn those people out, not only might Kendra Horn win, but it might signal what might happen in the governor's race.
And obviously that governor's race is really close. So do you think that Democrat Drew Edmondson really has a chance to beat Kevin Stitt in such a red state?
He has the best chance that a Democrat's had in a long time in Oklahoma, but with this being a Democratic year and Governor Fallon's unpopularity, Democrats are mobilized. Kevin Stitt doesn't really reach moderate Republicans and independents that well, so they might not vote for Edmondson, but they might have just stayed home. We don't really know yet, since it's really early.
Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight. That's all the time that we have. We will be joined by another political analyst later on in this show, but for now, back to you, Cal and Nicole.
Thank you so much, Tane, and we look forward to hearing from you later. For now, Kyle Payne joins us live in Oklahoma City at the Edmondson Watch Party. Kyle, what's going on?
Guys, I am here at the Democratic Watch Party at the Embassy Suites Hotel in downtown Oklahoma City. As the numbers roll in, people continue to pour into this ballroom. I have seen people of all ages here in support of Drew Edmondson's campaign. One thing I've seen a ton of, Teachers for Drew stickers. After the OEA endorsed Drew Edmondson, it was clear that his education platform was working with voters in Oklahoma, as he, according to Sooner Poll, is a big, almost 3-to-1 voters focused on education. Tonight, we plan on talking with people involved with the campaign and a lot of people involved with education. Right now, the night's for you, Chance. Some more people just getting really excited as the night goes
Difficulties
on
there.
and the
We look
numbers
forward to
continue
hearing
roll
from
in.
Kyle Payne all throughout the night. And throughout this evening, we also have Olivia Whitehead and Bailey Bates in our social media center tracking trends during the midterm election.
If you have any questions for any of our political and social analysis, send them to OU Nightly's Facebook or Twitter page, and we will get those answered for you. As numbers continue to pour in, social media analyst Bailey Bates joins us with some voting history. Bailey.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, tonight, Olivia and I will be reporting all of the social media posts that are trending and keeping you updated throughout the night. And if you couldn't already tell, it's election day, and people around the country are exercising their right to vote, especially women in Oklahoma. OU Nightly's Harley Toothman tells us why yesterday made today's elections even more rewarding.
Throughout Oklahoma history, roles women have evolved through business, politics, and other public life in the state. 2018 marks the centennial of women's suffrage in Oklahoma, a century since Oklahoma women were able to act on their civic duty and vote at the polls.
Having a celebration like this, we hope, emphasizes the fact that voting does matter, and that is a way to bring progress and change.
Oklahoma was the 21st state to grant universal suffrage to women just 2 years before the 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution was ratified. Equal suffrage nationwide for white women was not granted until 1920. Black women didn't get full voting rights until the Voting Rights Act of 1965.
And I think there was a groundswell across the nation, and we felt it, and we stepped right up.
I also think if you know your Oklahoma history, it wasn't really all that popular an idea. It was one of those cases where women made up their mind that they wanted, a group of women made up their mind that they wanted the right to vote, and they pushed for it and they worked hard for it.
With the lack of young voters across the state, the League hopes to continue improvement with educating people about the history and struggle for women's suffrage.
You have to learn, you have to participate and be active, or things go away. That's what I
Yeah,
heard.
and it's just generational too. My grandmother was 25 years old when she got the right to vote. She was so excited that was possible for her to have the right to vote.
Despite earlier political and social barriers, Oklahoma women have continued to share their voices and hope to inspire the newest generation to vote too. Harley Toothman, OU Nightly.
The League of Women Voters will hold a centennial event at the Oklahoma History Center on November 8th. And speaking of ending women's suffrage, 146 years ago, Susan B. Anthony made history for illegally casting her ballot on Election Day. Now women in Rochester, New York are visiting Anthony's gravesite after they vote and are leaving their I voted stickers on her tombstone. And if you're watching our Facebook live stream, comment with any questions you have and we'll do our best to answer them as results come in, or tag @OU Nightly on Twitter and Facebook. Back to you guys.
All right, thanks, Bailey. We look forward to hearing you all throughout the night. And stick around. We will be keeping you updated on some of those Texas races, especially the big Senate race that has grabbed the attention of many students on the OU campus.
Plus, we'll continue to track Oklahoma voting numbers as they pour in. We'll be right back. Hey, do you want me to go check INET?
Dalton, did you figure that out? Or do you need to come back?
Mine is still showing those like decimal points in it. Are from the state of Texas, so we're going to be monitoring that the whole night, and we know what you want to hear. All righty, we're going to look at the
And welcome back to OU Nightly's special midterm election coverage. There's been a significant rise in early voting this year. The state election board says more than 163,000 of Oklahomans voted in person before the general election.
Oklahoma voters mailed in more than 57,000 absentee ballots this year. With those figures combined, there are over 2 million people registered to vote in Oklahoma, which is nearly a 105,000 increase since January.
And the state is still watching closely to see who's going to take over for Mary Fallin as the next governor. The numbers currently show at this time Drew Edmondson trailing Kevin Stitt, the outsider. Those percentages 55% to about 41 with less than 6% of the precincts in. So Stitt still with a very early lead over Drew Edmondson, the former attorney general. And Lieutenant Governor Anastasia Pittman is trailing Matt Pinnell 62% to about 34%, also with less than 6% reporting. Pittman spent a lot of time in the Oklahoma State Legislature, and Matt Pinnell has a lead early in that race as well. And now we'll move over to Attorney General in that race. It's Mike Hunter and Mark Miles. Mike Hunter, appointed by Governor Fallin in 2017, 65% to about 35%, with less than 6% reporting as well. So Mike Hunter with a pretty hefty lead with 6% in. Next to Labor Commissioner Fred Durrell. He's trailing 33% to 62% by Leslie Osborne, also less than 62%. Let's take a look at those state auditor numbers now. Cindy Byrd with a commanding lead, 77% to John Uter's nearly 23%, also less than 6% of those precincts in. As far as insurance commissioner numbers look right now, Kimberly Fobbs trailing 38% to about 62% to Glenn Mulready, less than 6% reporting in the insurance commissioner's race right now. Over to corporation commissioner. Bob Anthony, he's been there for a long time. He's now leading 61% to about 34%, also less than 6% of those numbers in. And then finally, an update on Superintendent of Public Instruction. The incumbent Joy Hoffmeister, 59% to about 34% to John Cox, the superintendent of Peggs Public Schools. It looks like less than 30% of those numbers in, but Hoffmeister up early. And we continue our team coverage with Colin Kennedy, taking a look at the big Texas race for governor between Beto O'Rourke and Ted Cruz. And we'll hear from Kyle Payne again in a few minutes. Colin, what do you have for us?
Oh, hey, everybody, Colin Kennedy here. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? I'm here to keep you interested and updated on the shootout south of the border for the Texas Senate position, as, of course, the race between Beto O'Rourke and Ted Cruz rolls on. We want to make sure that you're keeping informed throughout the night, so here are the numbers as they stand right now. And, of course, it's a nail-biter. It's been a nail-biter the whole night as things stand right now, 51.2, 48.1 in favor of Beto O'Rourke. And while you look at those numbers, let me give you a brief profile of each in case you're not familiar with them at home. Beto O'Rourke is from El Paso, Texas, and a couple of his stances. He is, of course, wanting to legalize marijuana within the state, increase education funding, and he wants to find a way to get health care for all. Ted Cruz, on the other hand, he's from Calgary, Canada, not a Texas native, but he wants to create jobs, protect oil and gas prices, and he is pro-life. And of course, at the end of it all, we talked to some OU students because not only are they from the state of Texas and they're interested in this race, they're also interested in voting in it, but they've had some trouble doing just that. So we talked to them and heard their thoughts on trying to get involved in the race and the race overall. Here's what they had to say.
I have a particularly strong feeling about one of the candidates in the Senate races in Texas, but unfortunately I'm not going to be able to vote due to some absentee ballot concerns. Tried to actually get one and send it in, but it's not going to get there in time, unfortunately, so just kind of disappointed about that. I think some form of maybe online registration to get a ballot sent to me out of state, or maybe providing some new or innovative resource for students. I just think millennials want their voices heard, and the absentee ballot system, it's a little difficult right now to get it and then get it sent back in to get your vote counted.
So I'm excited to get to vote, even though I'm currently living in Oklahoma, and so just part of the process of, it's been interesting getting an absentee ballot, and so signing up for that through my home county, Denton County, and then mailing that form to them, and then getting back the absentee ballot to be able to vote and do my part as a citizen of the United States. It's cool that I'm able to do it from another state and be able to get my ballot from Denton, even though I'm currently living somewhere else. So I think it's nice that they do a good job of allowing me to be able to vote for my hometown, or my home state, even though I'm living somewhere else. Just go out and vote because every vote counts.
I am from San Antonio, which is about 8 hours from here, so I voted absentee, and I applied months in advance, and they only sent it to me literally like a week before the election, so I was nervous that it wasn't going to come since I had applied so early. I don't think professors should give tests on election days because I think it discourages students from voting, or if they're stuck in a long line or have to drive home to vote, I don't think that's the best course of action to take. I think it's extremely important for everyone to vote, especially students. I mean, we are right now the largest demographic in America, and yet we vote the worst out of any demographic. And I know that there was some stuff saying millennial voting was up almost 500% this midterm election from the last one, which is encouraging to hear. But I think you really do have to take the initiative and be willing to, drive home or apply for your absentee ballot and go get it notarized and take those sort of annoying extra steps, because it's going to be worth it in the end.
Interesting stuff overall, and of course, I'll be your guy throughout the night to keep you updated on the Texas Senate race. This thing is going back and forth, and I'll make sure you're on top of things. But for now, back to you two in the studio.
Thank you so much, Colin. We look forward to those updated numbers. For now, we're going to toss over to Storm Jones, who is in Washington, D.C. tonight, covering all things national races. Storm, what do you have?
Good evening and welcome back to the U.S. Capitol. We quickly want to get to some results coming in from the East Coast. Starting in Tennessee, CNN can now project Republicans will keep the Tennessee Senate seat, Marsha Blackburn, the Republican there in Tennessee, with 57% reporting. Marsha Blackburn has 62.4% over Phil Bredesen, the Democrat, there with 36.3%. It's still quite remarkable that Tennessee was even a toss-up to begin with. The seat, of course, held by retiring Senator Bob Corker, who was not shy after he announced his retirement to criticize the Trump administration. But still, the Democrat there, Phil Bredesen, the former Democratic governor, still very popular in the area. Now, taking a look at Florida, 97% reporting in from Florida. Democrat Bill Nelson, the incumbent there, he still has about 50.4% over the Republican governor Rick Scott with 49.6%. That is a race that might be burning the midnight oil on. Guys, it's went up 1% since we last checked, but the numbers have not changed, 50.4% to 49.6%. There in Florida, 97% reporting. Now, CNN has another projection out of West Virginia. Democrat Joe Manchin will keep his seat. Joe Manchin, the incumbent Democrat out of West Virginia. Polls have favored Manchin in the recent few weeks. GOP super PACs, the big money in the state, has began to pull back, which was a good sign for Joe Manchin. Now, Manchin is the only Democrat senator to have voted for Brett Kavanaugh. But when you're a senator in West Virginia, a Democratic senator in West Virginia, those are the types of tough decisions you're going to have to make. He broke with his party on that, the Republican Attorney General Patrick Morrisey. He came in with 45%. Joe Manchin with 50.6%. 62% reporting, but again, CNN has called that race. Now going to New Jersey. 29% reporting out of the New Jersey Senate race between Republican Bob Hugin and Democrat Bob Menendez. Menendez is the Democratic incumbent, been riddled with scandal, plagued with scandal, really. 29% reporting in that race. Hugin up 48.6 to 48.2. Still very slim margin on that one with just 29% reporting. Bob Menendez was indicted in 2015 on charges that he helped a top campaign contributor and a friend who took Menendez on these lavish trips on private jets, helped him skirt government regulations. Now, he was acquitted of that, but that is something that the Democrat Bob Hugin has been hounding him in campaign ads in New Jersey. Hugin, a wealthy pharmaceutical executive, and he's self-funding much of his campaign, much like President Trump did. Now, in New Jersey, Hillary Clinton won that state by 14 points in 2016. Democrat Bob Menendez currently down 0.4% to Bob Hugin, still just 29% reporting. Guys, two calls. Tennessee senators, Republican keeping the Senate seat in Tennessee, a Democrat keeping West Virginia. As we get more numbers, we'll check back in. Guys, back to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that update, Storm. For now, we're going to head into our social media analyst team again. Olivia Whitehead reporting now. Olivia, what are the current trends?
That's right, guys. I am back in social media, and I'm here with some trending posts on Twitter. Twitter is known for interesting GIFs that showcase people's emotions, and tonight's election is no different. Here are a couple that you can probably relate to. This first user can't see into the future like little Ms. Baxter from That's So Raven, but she definitely can relate to her here while waiting for the results.
Yeah,
and another user looks like they just hit the panic button after submitting their vote. And while many celebrities have been posting about voting, Beyonce decided to trade her halo for a Beto hat, showcasing her support for the Democratic Senate nominee. Remember, if you are watching our Facebook live stream, comment with any questions you have, and we'll do our best to answer them as the results come in. OUnite or tag OUnitely on Twitter and Facebook. Back to you guys in the studio.
Hey, thank you so much, Olivia. We look forward to hearing from you guys all night. Now we're going to go back out to Sammy Steele, who's at the Republican Watch Party in Oklahoma City. She's there with a guest. Sammy, we'll toss it out to you.
Now, Governor hopeful Kevin Stitt may not be here until the race is officially called, but many of his supporters are, and that includes Osage County Terry Shreve. Now, Terry, you have gone the miles for Stitt's campaign. Can you tell me a little bit about how you came to support him?
Sure. I was a commissioner on the Oklahoma Motor Vehicle Commission for about 8.5 years. We got the tag law changed in Oklahoma that'll take effect next July. I spent about 3.5 years at the Capitol dealing with politicians, and I will have to say the majority of them are good people, but I got pretty disillusioned. I saw Kevin's ads on TV this spring, and I told my wife, I said, you know, this guy sounds different, but I don't know. So he had one of the meet and greets in Owasso in April, and I went to it, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I mean, this guy's the real deal. We exchanged phone numbers. We've been in touch. I started getting involved in his campaign. I got a Stitt shirt, the Stitt hat. I got an old classic truck, and I put big Stitt signs on, and I probably drove about 12,000 miles this summer all over Oklahoma putting the word out about Kevin. And I don't do this. My wife was like, honey, I go everywhere and bring you T-shirts. You don't wear any of them, but you wear all this Stitt stuff. She says, I'm surprised you don't even have Stitt underwear. And I'm like, they got that?
Now, the fact that you drove 1,200 miles supporting Stitt, this means something especially special, because how many miles to a gallon do you get?
Well, now, see, this is there's a good and a bad. The bad thing, it only gets 5 miles to the gallon.
5 miles.
The good thing is it gives me a lot of time to stop and tell everybody about Kevin. And it was good. And I'll tell you something. I just can't believe that we are so lucky in Oklahoma to have a guy like this. He's a businessman. I've been in business in myself since 1972. And Oklahoma, the state of Oklahoma is the largest business in Oklahoma. It's $22 billion every year. So who in the world do we need to run the largest business in Oklahoma but a businessman?
And so that's part of the reason you support. You've run a business for more than 50 years, you said. You worked on the commission for 8.5. And so we were talking about this a little bit earlier today, but Governor Mary Fallin walked in, and she is also a Republican, as is Stitt. But what sets Stitt apart from Governor Mary Fallin?
Right, and I'm not saying anything bad about Governor Fallin. She's probably a nice lady, but the problem is she's a politician. And whether it's Drew Edmondson or Mary Fallin or anybody else, if we keep electing politicians, nothing's going to change. And I'm going to tell you something right now. When this guy becomes governor, we better hold on, because we will not recognize Oklahoma in the next few years. One of the things that he's going to do, he has spoken a whole lot to the Tennessee governor who's termed out now and can't run anymore. One of the things Kevin's going to bring to the governor's office is he's going to appoint a CFO, like they do in Tennessee, Chief Financial Officer. And he'll have probably the top 10 agencies in the state budget-wise that will meet twice a month with the CFO, and there will be accountability for the first time in the state of Oklahoma, and that's one of the ways we're going to get things done.
So accountability will be huge. Well, thank you so much, Terry. Looking forward to, Terry's given me a lot of great advice here. He's watched us student journalists get all of our live shots set up, and we really appreciate you taking the time to interview with us.
Because we couldn't do it without you all either. Thanks a lot.
Well, thank you, Terry. Live in Oklahoma City, back to you guys in the studio.
All right, thank you, Sammy. We love hearing from those passionate supporters out there.
Absolutely. And for now, we're going to take a quick break from all of this election coverage and give a little bit of a weather update from student meteorologist Jordan Overton, who's in studio now. Jordan, what do you have?
Yeah, that's right. So again, another warm day for election day, and I hate to throw more numbers at you, but that's what the temperatures are. So here's a few more numbers for you. 58 degrees in Norman right now, 51 degrees in Enid, but notice it's 65 in Ardmore. We actually have a cold front that's moving through right now. It's actually just to the north of Oklahoma City. It's basically right here. That's where the cold front is, and that's bringing in some Arctic air, and it's going to drop our temperatures a lot as we go in the next few days. So here we go. Then we go the next 5 days. Notice this white line is normal. This is where we're going to be for our highs, almost 20 degrees below normal on some places. So here we go. 51 degrees for a high tomorrow. So that's about almost 10, 15 degrees below normal. Then we drop down to 44 degrees for a high on Wednesday. 48 degrees for a high on Thursday, then 47 degrees on Friday. Saturday down to 46. We warm up more inside the 40s. But then I want you to notice on Monday of next week, how about 38 degrees for a high? That's pretty chilly, huh? So you might think, if these are the highs, well, what are the lows going to be? they're going to be even colder. So here we go. 45 degrees in Norman tonight, 44 degrees in Oklahoma City, 39 degrees in Enid. We're going to have those northeast winds around 5 to 15 miles an hour. As we go into tomorrow, though, it's not going to be too bad of a day, but it is going to be chilly and it's going to be cloudy. There's going to be a chance for rain late in the day. 48 degrees at noon with mostly cloudy skies. 5 o'clock, we get to 50, so at least we'll get to 50. The high will be 51 for tomorrow. So here's those highs again, 50s. 53, 40s to the northwest, but then as we extend that forecast out, again, Wednesday is going to be colder. It's going to be a little bit colder than what we saw today when we saw the 70s. It's going to be cold, mostly cloudy skies. Chance for rain late on Wednesday. Thursday is the better chance for rain, mainly for 60% chance of rain on Thursday. The cold will continue, but notice this as we get into Friday and then Saturday morning. 27 degrees for a low Saturday morning, going to be around freezing. We will have our first freeze since April 16th of earlier this year. Early Saturday morning, then for Bedlam, going to be cold conditions, only going to reach a high of 47 on Saturday. Then on Sunday, 40% chance of rain. And again, like I said, we have those 40s, around 49 degrees on Monday, and then 38 degrees on Tuesday. So the warmth is over and the cold is moving in. That's it for weather. Back to you guys.
Perfect. Thank you, Jordan. We appreciate the break with a little bit of a less stressful numbers. For now, we're going to head over to Tatum with another in-studio guest. Tatum.
Yes, Cal and Nicole, I'm joined by another OU political science graduate student, Tyler Camarillo. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
So the focus of the night has been on the race for governor in Oklahoma. Latest numbers show that Stitt is pretty well ahead of Drew Edmondson right now. But leading up to the race, it looked like it was going to be a pretty close one. So why do you think we're seeing these kinds of numbers?
Well, I think people thought this would be a little bit closer, for one, because Stitt, is a political newcomer, not really a well-known name statewide, mostly in the Tulsa area. Drew Edmondson, being a former state attorney general, being a well-known name, people know him. That people thought that probably help him, and also these continuing budget crises, service being cut like health and education. People. Political observers probably thought they wanted change within the state, but I think Kevin Stitt might be able to tap into that, a political outsider and bringing new ideas, fresh face, a new way of leadership. That might be why he's leading now. And also, Oklahoma's a traditionally conservative, libertarian-leaning state as well, too.
And like you said, education, obviously at the forefront this election cycle, coming off the teacher walkout earlier this year. What has the overall role of education been in the race for governor, though?
I think it's probably played the largest role in general. If we look at the debates, that's where they spent most of their time, and that's also where they had like the most contrasting visions. Edmondson wanting to raise gross protection taxes, cigarette taxes, and things like that. Kevin Stitt wanting to focus on bringing his private sector experience in, making government more lean and efficient, bringing AP classes through video technology to rural areas. So not wanting to broaden the tax base, keep taxes low. Edmondson not wanting to, bring more taxes in to fund, higher teacher pay and things like that.
Right, and on the topic of education, the state superintendent race has gotten a lot of special attention. What are voters thinking about as they're casting their ballots?
I think, going back to the April teacher strikes, things like that, unless you went to private school, everyone has a relationship with public education. That's where most people went. So they want to think, try to figure out who's done a better job. Hoffmeier's now the incumbent. So she has that name recognition there, and also doing things like free ACT tests at schools, so students can do that there and not have to worry about that cost and things like that. So she has a record she can point to, and hopefully voters be happy with that.
And this is the second time they're seeing those two names on the ballot, Joy Hoffmeister and John Cox. What do you think is the difference this year going around?
Well, the difference is I think that, Hoffmeier actually has that incumbency advantage there because she can point to a record, like here's what I did to improve schools within Oklahoma. As a challenger, Cox doesn't have that. So she has that advantage through that.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. That's all the time we have. For now, back to you, Cal and Nicole, in the studio.
Thank you so much, Tatum. We have new numbers now for county commissioner. For District number 1, we have Rod Cleveland with about 57.35% of the vote, and versus Will McCutcheon, which is the Democratic nominee. 17.24 precincts reporting right now, so still very, very early on. And for District number 3, we have Harold Carlson with 53.85% of the vote, and J.D. Cromer with 46.15% of the vote. Now that has 52% of the precincts reporting, so a little bit farther along there, but still a long way to go. And for now, our Cleveland County Sheriff numbers, Todd Gibson 55.64% versus Kevin Hammond trailing behind with 44.36, 48% precincts reporting. So again, still early on, but we are heading now back to Abby in the studio to give us a little bit more update on state questions. Abby?
Yes, OU Nightly's Harley Toothman brings us details on how one proposed state question will bring new protection to crime victims. Okay, yes, sorry about that. We have new numbers coming in right now for each question. So right now, for our vision care and state question 793, we have around 50 for the yes side and around 49 for the no side. And for victims' right, for Marsy's Law, we have around 78% for yes and around 22% for the no side. And we also have, for our single ticket state question 798, we have around 46%, and for the no side, we have around 54%. Now for the next question, for state question 800, we have, for the yes side, we have around 42%, and for the no side, we have around 58%. And for state question 801, for the yes percent, we have 48%, and for the no side, we have 52%. And we will keep you posted on those numbers as they keep coming in. Now back to you guys at the desk.
All right, thank you very much, Abby. And we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have updated numbers as election night rolls on. Welcome back to OU Nightly's special election coverage. We've got some updated numbers for you. Polls are closed on the East Coast, and we're going to go back to Storm Jones with live coverage later. But in the race for Oklahoma governor, hotly contested, 55% of the vote for Kevin Stitt, the outsider. He's never run for public office before. His challenger, Drew Edmondson, 42% of the vote. That's with about 5.5% of that in. For lieutenant governor, Anastasia Pittman still trailing Matt Pinnell. Matt Pinnell with about 62% of the vote. Anastasia with 34% of the vote. And we'll move over now to our Attorney General's race. Mike Hunter, 65%, knocking off Gettner Drummond in the primary, or in the runoff, excuse me. Mike Hunter with a commanding lead over Mark Miles early on with about 6% of the vote in still. Next to Labor Commissioner Leslie Osborne with a 62 to 33% advantage over her challenger Fred Durrell. That's with about 6% reporting as well. Now let's take a look at those state auditor numbers. Cindy Byrd with a commanding lead over John Uter with about 6% of those numbers in, 77 to about 24%. And then to our next race, Insurance Commissioner Kimberly Fobbs trailing her challenger Glenn Mulready, 63% to about 38% with 6% of those numbers in, and that's in the Insurance Commissioner's race. Over to Corporation Commissioner now, Bob Anthony. He's held this office since 1989, 61% of the vote to his challenger Ashley McCrae to about 34%. Again, early numbers reporting in that race. And finally, an update to the Superintendent of Public Instruction race. Joy Hoffmeister, the incumbent, with a commanding 59 to 34 lead over John Cox, the superintendent, who's been in public education for about 24 years. And that's just about 30% of those numbers in. So things are getting really interesting.
Yeah, they're heating up for sure. Now we're going to head back over to Colin, who's at the Texas desk, giving us all things Cruz and O'Rourke. Colin, what do you have?
Thanks, Nicole. Let's take a look at those numbers right now. As I said, it'd be a nail biter, and it sure is. As things stand right now, it's getting pretty interesting. Right now, 49.7 in favor of Beto O'Rourke. Cruz is at 49.2 right now, so things are still shaking out. But right now, Beto O'Rourke continuing to have a little bit of a lead on this situation as things continue. Now, let's hear from those two themselves, because Cruz is trying to warn people that prioritize oil, gas, job creation, like I mentioned he does earlier on in the show. He's trying to send a message about the dangers of potentially voting for Beto O'Rourke.
You'd have to be off your rocker if you work in oil and gas or you care about jobs to vote for Beto O'Rourke rather than continue this boom we got going right now.
While Beto O'Rourke was asked a pretty simple question, you think you're actually going to win this thing? His answer, pretty simple itself.
Are you expecting to win?
Yes.
What do you base that on?
I just, don't have a poll, don't have a pollster. Just to travel to every single county in Texas, listen to everybody, have so many amazing volunteers that we are working with, knocking on millions of doors, making that human-to-human connection that we are in such desperate need of at this moment of division in the country, bringing people together. I feel it, and so yeah, feels good.
Now, if Beto can actually go ahead and win this thing, he'd be the first Democratic Senate for the state of Texas in a very long time. I'll expand on that a little bit more when I return in a bit. But for now, back to you two in the studio.
Thank you so much, Colin. Very, very exciting numbers. We are going to head back to Kyle Payne, who's in Oklahoma City at the Democratic Watch Party, with a guest. Kyle, who do you have?
Guys, I'm back at the Drew Edmondson official watch party here with 3 elementary teachers from Coronado Elementary in Putnam City. Marissa, what was something that you learned through Drew Edmondson's campaign that made you so willing to support him?
You know, since day one, Drew was with us at the walkout. He was just talking to us about his plan and how he wanted to make our class sizes smaller and just get us more funding and everything we need. And he just won over a whole lot of teachers with that.
And Don, what would you say is the thing affecting schools the most that you'd like to see changed in our state?
I honestly think that adequate public funding for all public schools, not just teacher salaries, is huge. This year, I have 4 children, but 3 of them are in schools. And I can guarantee you, I'm tired of watching our kids sit in classrooms that are over the size of 25, where they don't have a chair in most of the high schools for every single student in their classroom or textbooks. So public school funding is huge.
And Jessica, finally, if Drew wins or not, do you think that education is still going to be the main focus in whatever campaign ends up winning? I mean, do you think that seeing education become at the forefront of so many people's minds will help it no matter what?
Yes, I think if nothing else, teachers have become more active in the political scene, and I think that most of the teachers are really trying to get involved now, and I think they'll keep it at the forefront of all the issues. I think we're going to make sure our voices are heard and that our students are being taken care of.
Well, thank you so much, guys. Back to you.
Thank you, Kyle. We're now going to head over to the GOP watch party in Oklahoma City with Sammy Steele. Sammy, who do you have for us?
Well, that was Sammy Steele there. Looks
Sorry
like we'll
about
get back
those
to her in a
technical
little bit.
difficulties.
But in the meantime, we've got some really interesting elections going on. You know, obviously people talking about education, how important that is in the state of Oklahoma, especially for both candidates for governor.
Absolutely, and a lot of Oklahoma students watching the Texas election, and I think some very, very surprising numbers. For now, I think we are going to go ahead and take a break, but when we come back, we will have updated numbers.
Good job, guys.
Welcome back to this special OU Nightly election coverage. We are now going to head over back to Sammy Steele, the GOP Watch Party in Oklahoma City. Sammy.
Now here at the GOP Watch Party, the mood is excited. People have been cheering as the news plays behind us. Races are starting to be called across the country. Now, various organizations have called specific races here in the state already, but we don't have any official confirmation on what exactly the results are. But I can tell you right now, GOP supporters are excited and they are hopeful for the future of Oklahoma. Stay tuned and we will be interviewing more GOP supporters here at the Watch Party. Live in Oklahoma City, back to you in the studio.
All right, thank you very much, Sammy. And at this time, those GOPers have a lot to be excited about because we can now make the projection through CNN that the Oklahoma governor's race has been decided and Kevin Stitt has been projected the winner and will be the next governor of Oklahoma, winning by about 56% right now to 41%. So Drew Edmondson will not be the next governor, it will be Kevin Stitt. Over to Lieutenant Governor. It's Matt Pinnell with a commanding lead with 3/4 of percentages coming in. 75% of the precincts reporting that Matt Pinnell with 63% to Anastasia Pittman with a pretty big deficit. Attorney General's race, Mike Hunter, 65% to Mark Miles is 35%. That's 75% of those numbers in as well. So Mike Hunter, the incumbent with a commanding lead. Over to our Labor Commissioner's race, Leslie Osborne, the Republican nominee, with a 63% advantage to Fred Durrell's 33%, also with 75% of those numbers in. The Auditor's race, Cindy Byrd with a commanding lead, 76% to John Uter's nearly 24%, also 75% of those precincts in. On to our next race, the Insurance Commissioner's race, Glenn Mulready with a 63% advantage to Kimberly Fobbs, 37%, also 75% of the precincts reporting the Insurance Commissioner's race. Over to Corporation Commissioner, it's Bob Anthony. He's got a commanding lead, 61% to Ashley McCrae's 34%, also 75% of those numbers reporting. And into our next race, the state treasurer's race. Randy McDaniel with a big-time lead over Charles DeCoon, 73% to about 27.2%, and that's with nearly 76% of precincts reporting. And it looks like Joy Hoffmeister has built a nice lead, 59% of the vote to John Cox's 33%, also with 75% of those precincts reporting. So with more on our state questions, we're going to send it out to Abby Green in the studio. Abby, what's up with the state questions?
Yes, we have more on the state questions here, and we are going to state question 798 is okay. So we have some numbers right here. So state question 793 for the yes side, we have around 50% now, and the no side we also have around 50%. So it's pretty tight there. For our next state question, we have for state question for the next one we have, and we're still waiting on those numbers to come in here. For state question 794 for the yes side, we have around 78%, I'm sorry. And for the no side, we have about 22%. And for state question 798 for the yes side, we have around 46%. And for the no side, we have about 54%. For our next state question, we have for state question 800, we have for the yes side about 42%. And for the no side, we have about 58%. And lastly, for state question 801, for the yes side, we have about 48%. And for the no side, we have about 52%. And now back to you guys at the desk.
Perfect. Thank you, Abby. We're now going to toss back over to Colin with updated numbers from the Texas election. Colin, what do you have?
Right now, guys, as I mentioned, it's getting interesting. Ted Cruz back in the lead. Right now, as things stand, Ted Cruz at 50 flat and Beto O'Rourke 49.3. So the lead has flipped. Now Ted Cruz takes the lead as things progress in this tight race and as things go back and forth. I mentioned earlier that this would be an interesting landmark for Beto O'Rourke if he is actually able to take over Ted Cruz. It would be the first time a Texas Senate is held by a Democratic position for the first time in about 20 plus years, which is, needless to say, an interesting remark. But on top of that, Ted Cruz, he's been in that position since around 2012, so he's had a strong stranglehold on the position. So if Beto O'Rourke actually takes it over, it will be huge for the Democratic Party. At the end of it all, however, Ted Cruz, while he knows that Beto O'Rourke has a chance to challenge, Beto said it himself. This battle is going to be close the whole night, and eventually he feels like he's in a good position to take things over.
Okay, perfect, Colin. It looks like we have some updated numbers for U.S. House numbers coming in with us right now for District 1. It looks like Tim Gilpin is at 41%, trailing behind Kevin Hern with about 58% and 16 of those precincts reporting. So still early on in the election, but we are seeing a lot of numbers still coming in for U.S. House District number 2. Markwayne Mullin, 64% ahead of Jason Nichols with 30% with 73 of those precincts reporting. So again, still early on. U.S. House District 3, Frank Lucas, 74% with ahead of Frankie Robbins with 25.59% with 75% precincts reporting. U.S. House District number 4, Mary Brannon, 33% of the vote, and Tom Cole with 62.85%, 65 of those precincts reporting. And on to District 5, Kendra Horn, 50% above Steve Russell with 49.4%, 42 of those precincts reporting. It looks like we are now going over to social media with Bailey Bates. Bailey, what do you have for us? Sorry about those technical difficulties. We're actually going to take a break, but when we come back, hopefully we'll have some new numbers for you. Stay with us. Hey, can you
I don't know what. I said I can't talk to you.
Welcome back. Thank you for tuning in. We are going to head to Storm Jones, who is in Washington, D.C., to give us more updates on the national election. Storm.
And welcome back to Washington, guys. Taking a look at Oklahoma numbers. These are congressional candidates out of Oklahoma. The U.S. 1st District in Oklahoma, that's northeastern part of the state, 11% reporting. We have Kevin Hern, the Republican, 56-year-old McDonald's franchisee owner with 57.59%. Tom Gilpin, the Democrat, with 42.41%. The Associated Press has predicted Republican Representative Markwayne Mullin, the incumbent, will be returning to Washington to represent Oklahoma's 2nd congressional district. That's the eastern part of the state, Cherokee, Muskogee, Adair, Atoka counties. Now, this is the 23rd most Republican district in the United States, according to the Cook Political Report. And it's an expansive district dotted with small towns. Loyalty and name recognition matters a lot there. Now, an incumbent representative in Oklahoma's 2nd hasn't lost since 1994. Name recognition huge. Also a note, this will be Representative Markwayne Mullin's 4th term being elected to Congress. He had previously made a pledge that he would only serve 3 terms. Now, in a 7-minute video announcement, he said that he would be pursuing this 4th term. That really upset some of his supporters, including former Senator Tom Coburn, who vowed to unseat him. But Representative Markwayne Mullin, with 64.89% of the vote over Democrat Jason Nichols, 30.29%. Markwayne Mullin coming back to Washington. Also heading back to Washington from Oklahoma's 3rd District, the Associated Press predicts Frank Lucas will be returning to Washington with 41.3% of the polls in. The Associated Press predicts Lucas will come back, currently with 74.57% over Democrat Frankie Robbins. I was in Frank Lucas's office. He's been in Congress since 1994. Look, he has a beautiful window, and I commented on the view, and one of his staffers kind of chuckled and said, well, that's what seniority gets. He's also in line, if Republicans keep this House, control the House, to possibly chair the House Committee on Agriculture or the House Committee on Financial Services. His office told us that they are really eyeing those chairmanships. Now, if Republicans don't keep the House, then obviously Lucas doesn't get to chair those committees, either of those committees, but Lucas is coming back to Congress. Now over in Oklahoma's 4th Congressional District, Tom Cole, 4th District is Central Oklahoma, including Norman. He will be returning to Congress. The 68-year-old Cole has been in Congress since 2002. Him and Markwayne Mullin are 2 of the only Native Americans in Congress. Cole with 63.58% over Democrat Mary Brandon with 32.87%. The Associated Press calls it for Cole. Now, Cole has also been outspoken against President Trump. He is popular on radio programs like NPR. Not too long ago, he told a Washington, D.C. radio show when there was a bunch of indictments coming out around the Mueller investigation, he said, look, if there's smoke, there's probably fire, and if there's a lot of smoke, there's probably a lot of fire. That little bit of separation there from the president. Not a problem this evening for Republican voters in Oklahoma's 4th District. Tom Cole coming back to the United States Congress. Now, a very close race out of District 5, the U.S. House of Representatives, District 5 for Oklahoma. That's central Oklahoma, including Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City with a younger, more diverse population. That age number continues to come down and the diversity continues to come up in the Oklahoma City area. A tight race, only 14.4% reporting, but right now incumbent Representative Steve Russell, the Republican, with 49.7%. Over Kendra Horn with Kendra Horn, the Democrat, is up in that race right now with 50.3%. Russell with 49.7%. Now, as we said, it's still very early in this race, but Russell, this is kind of a surprise. We talked to some people surrounding the Russell campaign a few weeks ago, and they were very confident with this race. Kind of almost viewed it more as a formality. It's just something you have to do every couple years. Russell owns a small business and he served in the U.S. military for 21 years. Horn, an attorney out of Oklahoma City, she ran television ads saying, look, Russell has broken promises to fix health care and education. She also attacked his donations, saying he received too much money from oil. That race still too close to call. Guys, we will come back when we have more numbers, but 3 Oklahoma representatives returning to Congress. Back to you.
Good information. Thank you, Storm. I like how you still talk about Frank Lucas's view, and Storm's got a great view, too.
That's what we were talking about. I wish I could be there with you, Storm.
Our social media team is also working hard tracking this election. We now go back to Bailey Bates in the News Center with more information. Bailey.
Yes, guys, at a recent gubernatorial debate, candidates Kevin Stitt and Drew Edmondson both stated their hopes for the betterment of the future.
From now on, we're going to build a future that our children and our grandchildren can be proud of. From now.
And so I want a brighter future for you, for my children, for your children and grandchildren, so you guys have great opportunities here in this state.
And now, as people continue to place their votes, many parents are tweeting #theirfuture as they anticipate the results with expectations to make the world a better place for their children. Remember, if you're watching our Facebook live stream, comment with any questions you have and we'll do our best to answer them. Back to you guys.
All right, thank you very much, Bailey. And again, Kevin Stitt, the projected winner, so Drew Edmondson, we expect, will be making his speech to his crowd soon. But anyway, we'll go now to Abby Green, who's got some updated numbers on our state questions, including the highly controversial state question 793. Abby.
Yes, we have some updated numbers for you right here. Let's see. So for state question 793, we're waiting for those numbers to come in. All right, so for state question 793, we have, it's neck and neck, so it's about 50-50 for the yes and the no side. And for state question 794, or Marsy's Law, I believe it looks like it is passing. So that law will pass state question 794. And for state question 798, we have about 50% on the yes side and about 54% on the no side. And moving on to the next question, state question 800. For the yes side, we have about 42%, and for the no side, we have about 58%. And our last question, we have state question 801. For the yes side, we have about 49%, and for the no side, we have about 51%. So those are our numbers right now. As more numbers come in, we will keep you posted on those. Back to you guys.
All right, thank you very much, Abby. We're going to take another look at those U.S. House district numbers. We'll wait for those to get on the screen, but of course, all 5 of the House districts up for grabs this election cycle. In District 1, Kevin Hern with a commanding lead so far, double digits, with the 63% of precincts reporting Kevin Hern a 58 to 43% advantage. In House District 2, Mark Wayne Mullen, 65% of the vote to Jason Nichols, 30%, and that's with 98% of those numbers reporting, Storm Jones reporting that the race has been called for Mark Wayne Mullen. In U.S. House District 3, Frank Lucas, his race also decided. 75% of the race has been decided, with about 97% of the precincts reporting. So Frank Lucas headed back to Washington. And House District 4, Tom Cole, his race called as well, with 94% of precincts reporting. Tom Cole will defeat Mary Brandon in District 4. And then this one's one to keep an eye on. We've heard that all night. U.S. House District 5, Steve Russell, the incumbent, he's getting a run for his money against Kendra Horn. 72% of the precincts reporting. This one's still too close to call. So it's going to be interesting to keep an eye on that one, Nicole.
Absolutely. We're going to go back to Colin, Texas desk. It's been going back and forth all night. Colin, what are the updated numbers?
Yeah, Nicole, this thing has been a battle, and it continues to be. Of course, Beto O'Rourke throughout the night mostly has been in the lead, but of course, as we check the numbers again, Ted Cruz back in the lead. 50.4 Cruz in favor over Beto O'Rourke's 48.9 as things stand right now. And of course, we don't exactly know when this thing will be settled, and it will continue to go back and forth. Beto O'Rourke has a strong following, but Ted Cruz has been in that position for a very long time, so he has the state's favor, and Beto O'Rourke will have to rally his troops if he wants to get a hold on this. But he knows that, and he knows how close this race would be throughout the night. Here's what he had to say about the potential closeness of this battle.
Poll release yesterday shows 49% to 49%. If nothing else, it reflects the truth that we all know, that this is going to be very, very close. Up to every single one of us to do all that we can to make sure that we win this. And I'm going to do everything on my part. I know that our team is as well. So yeah, this feels like exactly the place that we want to be in order to win this on Tuesday night.
This all ends up Beto O'Rourke trying to battle back. He had the lead for most of the night, but now Ted Cruz taking the lead again. For now, as we continue to watch this race, I'm going to send it back to you two in the studio.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Colin. We have updated numbers for the U.S. Senate races. It looks like Marsha Blackburn has 56.6% of the vote, ahead of Phil Brendanson with 42%, 88 of those precincts reporting. So we're getting farther along in the election so far tonight. U.S. Senate Florida, Bill Nelson, 49.6, right trailing behind Rick Scott, very, very close in that race. 94 of those precincts reporting. U.S. Senate West Virginia, Joe Manchin, 49%, and Patrick Morrissey, 46.8%, and 80 of those precincts reporting. Oh, sorry about that technical difficulty. And I think we are heading over to the we are heading to the Democratic Watch Party with Kyle Payne in Oklahoma City. Kyle, what do you have?
EDMONDSONUC. For better schools and jobs we need. He's the one we know who can succeed. Edmondson for me.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, it was a hell of a campaign till the returns. Yeah. A little while ago, I called Kevin Stitt and congratulated him on a great race and offered any assistance that I can give to his administration in the best interests of the state of Oklahoma. This is, thank you. This is obviously not the outcome that we wanted. The great Dr. Martin Luther King said we must accept finite disappointment, but never lose infinite hope. And that's what we're about here tonight, and that's what we'll be about down the road. When Linda and I decided to enter this race, we did so because we feared the direction that our state had taken. Over the last year and a half, we've been greeted day in and day out with kind faces of friends and strangers who had offered their support, their service, and their hopes for a brighter tomorrow. We waged this campaign for them. And even though we are not victorious tonight, I am comforted by my renewed faith in the decency of our fellow man. Hope lives infinitely in you. There are some people that I certainly want to thank, and most importantly, I want to thank my wife, Linda. The chairman of the Edmondson for Governor campaign. And by the way, I can say this now because it's over. I announced May 1st of last year. Up until tonight, I have not missed a day because of a head cold, chest cold, headache, or anything else. The Lord's hands have been on my shoulders, but it's Linda's cooking that got me through. I want to thank our children and their spouses, Mary and Mike and Robert and Andrea, and our wonderful grandchildren. Catherine and Andrew are here, and thank you for coming down. My campaign manager, Michael Klingman, did an outstanding job. Thank you, Michael, for what you did. Emily Lang and Charlie Price handled our media, and I think did an excellent job on that. Those of you who are following the campaign got the news of the day from Sloan Wellner. Thank you, Sloan, for keeping us posted on all of that. Carrie Williams, who handled $4.2 million. Yay, finance team. Did all the bookkeeping, all the book work, filed all the reports with the Ethics Commission. Thank you, Carrie, for the wonderful job you did. Russell Griffin and Michelle Tilley, who were field coordinators and did an excellent job for all of us. Cody Minyard, who led our finance team that raised that $4.2 million. And Drew Bullard, who, number one, misspells Drew, but he's been, in addition to being part of the finance team, Drew was my driver for most of the campaign and put up with my abuse on a daily basis. I am the worst backseat driver in the whole world, with always a better idea on what route to take and this, that, and the other. Keith McCarter in Tulsa and Chessie Trail in eastern Oklahoma. God bless you. I really appreciate
that. Was Democratic candidate Drew Edmondson. That was live video of him giving his concession speech announcing he's called Kevin Stitt to concede the election. We're going to get out to the Stitt Watch Party in just a few moments, but one of the big state questions was State Question 793. It dealt with whether optometrists can offer eye exams for glasses or contacts in a retail store.
Amina Schweitzer has a look at both sides of the question.
Retailers versus doctors, convenience versus quality. The proposed amendment to the state constitution, called State Question 793, would allow optometrists to practice in retail stores like this Walmart. Two political action committees, Yes on 793 and Oklahomans Against 793, have taken up support for and opposition to the question and raised the money they need to spread their messages.
47 states have affordable, high-quality eye care, but Oklahoma isn't one of them.
Don't let Walmart manipulate our state laws and undermine the patient protection in our state's medical system.
The campaign in support of the amendment, Yes on 793, raised just over $105,000. Oklahomans Against 793, the dissenting political action committee, has over $1.4 million to work with.
So really all of our members have contributed to the campaign, and we believe that's a good thing. Optometry should be the ones fighting this fight. We're hoping for a rock to hit a big guy.
The No campaign also has a large number of contributions from out-of-state optometric societies and individual practitioners. There are 15 such donations from states including Alaska, Maryland, and Indiana. The Yes campaign only has 4 contributors, and 2 of them are large retailers. Despite the money on the against side, polls right now show a trend towards the approval of the state question. I contacted the PR firm working for the retailers in favor of the question, but they told me they had no relevant information about the Yes campaign funding. Amina Schweitzer, OU Nightly.
And Abby Green is in studio now with updated numbers for that state question and the other 4. Abby, what do you have?
Yes, news on the state questions. Well, our state question 793 that you just heard about is neck and neck. We are tied at 50% on the yes and the no side. And then for state question 794 update, it has passed. So Marcy's Law will now go into effect. And state question 798, we have about 46% for the yes side, and for the no side, we have about 54, with 91% of the precincts reporting. For state question 800, we have 43% for the yes side and 57% for the no side. And for state question 801, we have 49% for the yes side and about 51% for the no side, again with 91% of the precincts reporting. So those are the updated numbers for the state questions. Now back to y'all at the desk.
Thank you very much, Abby. We're going to take another look at U.S. House District 5. Now, this is one of the closest races we've seen in the state of Oklahoma, probably the closest race. Right now, it's Kendra Horn with a just about a 51% advantage to the incumbent Steve Russell's 49.1%. And that's with 88% reporting. It's really close, one to follow.
And Colin, I'm from Texas. I know I'm really interested in this Texas election. What are the updated numbers?
All right, my native Texans, we have a decision. This just in, Ted Cruz takes it home. The Republican nominee wins by a final tally of 51-48 over Beto O'Rourke, the Democratic nominee. Of course, Ted Cruz now retains the position that he has held for so long, since about 2012-2013. Cruz will continue to build on his primary beliefs. Of course, he wants to create jobs, protect oil and gas prices, and make sure that pro-life is a main priority in the state of Texas. So, with a final tally of 51-48, Ted Cruz continues to be your Texas senator, and Beto O'Rourke cannot get the job done on his side. Those are the final numbers from the south of the border state. That's all I've got for you. Back to you two in the studio.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Colin. We have some updated numbers for statewide races. For Lieutenant Governor Anastasia Pittman, 94% of the vote versus Matt Pinnell, 62, with 91% precincts reporting. So looks like she might win that one. Attorney General Mike Hunter, 64.36% and 35.64% for Mark Miles, and 91 of those precincts reporting. Labor Commissioner Fred Dorrell, 33% of the vote, while Leslie Osborne is winning with 62% of the vote, 91 of those precincts reporting as well. Auditor Cindy Byrd, 76% of that vote, and John Uter, 23.85%, so trailing a little bit behind with 91 of those precincts reporting. Insurance Commissioner Kimberly Fobbs, 37.76% of the vote, and Glenn Mulready, 62% with 91 of those precincts reporting as well. And Corporation Commissioner, Bob Anthony, 60% of the vote, while Ashley Nicole McRae is trailing behind with 34% of the vote, with 91 of those precincts reporting as well. And State Treasurer Charles DeCone, 28% of the vote, trailing far behind Randy McDaniel with 72% of the vote and 91.3% of those precincts reporting. Superintendent of Public Instruction John Cox, 33.62% of the vote, trailing behind Joy Hoffmeister, 58.66, with 91 of those precincts reporting. So though that one's not very close either, these precincts are coming in. We've got a lot of numbers for the rest of the night. So we are going to head into a break, but when we come back, we're hoping that we can finish up these numbers. Stay with us.
Welcome back to our coverage of the midterm elections. We're going to go now out to the Kevin Stitt watch party where our Sammy Steele is located. Stitt obviously the winner tonight, so we'll go out to Sammy. Sammy, what do you have for us?
Now here at the GOP watch party, I've noticed that the vibe is very young. Most of the people working on Kevin Stitt's campaign have been younger. And I'm here with Colton Murphy. Now you worked on Tom Cole's campaign. You're a college student. Can you tell me about why you thought it was important to get involved in the politics here in the state?
At this point in age, like, we just need to make our voice heard. So I feel like working on a campaign, I want my voice heard in Congress. So being able to work on a campaign just let me, yeah.
You know, unfortunately, Colton, that's the only question that we have time for here. But thank you for interviewing with us. Back to you guys here in the studio.
We're now going to head over to Kyle Payne at the Democratic Watch Party in Oklahoma City. Kyle, what do you have?
As the numbers rolled in, people here at the Drew Edmondson watch party realized that this race was over. While many of the people in the crowd seemed to be a little somber, when Drew Edmondson took the stage to make his recession speech, the crowd regained some optimism. And when Drew Edmondson shouted out the teachers who helped him along his entire campaign, the crowd erupted with excitement. They're hopeful for the future, and they're hopeful that this state, winning some House seats and across the country doing the same, they're hoping that their plans for the future aren't changing and that they'll still be able to accomplish the goals that they wanted to, especially for teachers in the state. As people continue to leave, the crowd is happy again. They played some happy music, and I think people are just excited that they were able to be a part of a campaign that really worked hard to make some of the issues that they cared so much about known. Finally, I think that this campaign for Drew Edmondson and this watch party showed that he has a ton of support across the state. Despite the numbers not falling in his direction, he was able to bring a ton of people in here. They all seem to have a really good time, and that's it. That's all I got. Back to you guys in the studio.
All right, thank you very much, Kyle Payne, reporting from the Drew Edmondson campaign tonight. Obviously, the big news, Kevin Stitt will be the next governor of Oklahoma, at least for the next 4 years. And that's, I think, going to do it for us tonight.
It is. Thank you for tuning in to this special edition of OU Nightly.
We'll be sure to keep you updated on numbers on our Facebook and Twitter pages, and tune into our newscast tomorrow night right here on OU TV at 4:30. Have a great evening.
Good night.